the challenges, the problems. And we know there are many. And we know that there should be a change in mindset. There should be an examination with reflection, with maturity, as to where we are and where we intend to go. From my point of view, it is very important, first and foremost, for the African leaders of tomorrow to think about Africa first, the country second, and the individual third. All too often now, what we have seen is a policy where the individuals are more interested in his personal gain, putting the country in second place. But this has got to stop if we are going to bring forward that sort of Africa which we are seeking. But 18 months ago I was in Kenya here, attending a conference at Kenyatta International Conference Center. And there was a current president and the current leader of opposition. And I reminded them of the time that Kenya became independent. Those days there were two songs which everybody was singing in Kenya. One song was Arambe, Arambe, Kume Mama Molia. It was a romantic song. No, not Arambe. The romantic song was Malaika. Malaika, Makupeli, Malaika. Beautiful song. And then Arambe. They were singing this song and I asked my African friends, what's the meaning of this song, Arambe? What are the words? Because you're singing it with passion. And they said, well, the words simply that now that the British have gone and left us this most beautiful country, we must all work together to capitalize on its potential in the spirit of national unity. But my friends, we do know that if Arambe was relevant then, it is even more relevant today. We speak about changes. What new leaders do we need? Where we have gone through a period where there's a lot of new thinking, invention of new technology, and it's very, very clear that what has been taking place has got to be left behind. However, one has got to realize that we cannot escape from the fact of reality. Money, they say, is the root of all evil. Unfortunately, many people are attracted and still attracted in making money. I believe Africa must meet its challenges in its own way. And we must take into account the fact that peace of mind is a very important factor in the evaluation of an individual quality of life. I believe the United Nations must move away from merely publishing every year an economic index of nations, which relates the position of nations in the world against the background of their economic performance. I believe it is time for us also to aim at an index of human contentment. Once upon a time, a little story I want to tell concerns an African family who lived in the countryside. Every morning, the family woke up, there was a challenge to find some water, to kill an animal for a meal. But they rose to the rising sun, and they were asleep to the setting sun, to the roar of lions, songs of birds. Life was relatively good. Until one day, they went to a big city and saw a CNN film about the rich and famous. And suddenly got the impression that if you're living on the 50th floor of an apartment in New York City, you are next to God. Without realizing that in order to get 50th floor, you've got to go through a lift. It could be locked up. That you have no playing ground for your children. And that at night, instead of sleeping to the roar of lions and the songs of birds, you sing to the roar of fire engines and ambulance machine. It's interesting to realize that this rich American who spent all his life working hard to make money, suddenly he's got all the money in the world, can buy himself any lifestyle. But what is his aspiration? His aspiration is to end up, retire in a village somewhere in Africa or on some distant islands and to have a simple life. In that respect, Africa has a lot to offer. That is why sometimes one has got to be careful in disturbing certain things which are traditional and trying to replace by what? And what we see sometimes happening in major democracies, the most frightening. That's why I converge on the view that Africa must find its own solution to its own problems in an entire manner, and that is where new leadership is necessary. A leadership which is engraved with passion for the love of Africa and a desire to give the African the dignity which they deserve. When you see our people jumping across border, risking their life to get to London, Paris or New York, believing that the roads of London or New York are paved with gold, and that we know they're living behind the gold which is still buried in their soil. We speak about corruptions in Africa. Yes, there are corruptions, but as this Panama issue has just revealed, there's corruption everywhere. And I dare say that behind every corrupted African leader, there's 2 corrupted Frenchmen, 3 corrupted English businessmen, 5 corrupted Americans, and many corrupted Indians, and quite a few Chinese are coming along too. These are human factors, they are realistic factors, and they've got to be appraised. One point which has bothered me is to what extent can Africa really get the changes it deserves rapidly if we go along the channel of certain level of democracy as we are supposed to go to. I was in Shanghai some years back and discovered what the Chinese had done with that city, because I'd been there before, in turning it into a city which rivaled New York. From Shanghai, I flew over to Mumbai, and there I found organized a reception at the residence of the president of Mumbai Chamber of Commerce. I was invited, it was in my honor, that we got into this penthouse, went on the patio, and had a look. The old new model building was surrounded by a shanty town. Then my host turned to me and said, "Sir James, this is democracy." He said, the shanty town people, they are the one who elected the city council. And the city council, therefore, cannot get rid of them because they're very happy with their swords. And in Asia, we have the example of a great country admired for its achievement, Singapore, where we had Lee Kuan Yew. And what they realized was realized against the prospect of the policy of central command. When Singapore was about to become independent, there was a big question: which language should we adopt? Mandarin, Cantonese, Hakka, Malay? Lee Kuan Yew in his wisdom decided we shall adopt English as our national language, and thereby created a base for national unity. Otherwise, the country could have been born against a background of language problems and difficulties. That, in my view, indicates the need to look at the situation realistically. And well, in Africa, I'll tell you some of my experiences. We had the Organization of Frequent Unity, which was founded all in good faith, great principles. But there was also a proviso, for example, that nations would practice the philosophy and policy of good neighborliness towards each other. Now, was it good neighborliness for Tanganyika overnight to walk over Zanzibar and annex it and create Tanzania? Now, the AU did not say much about this because there was also a proviso of non-interference in the internal affairs of each other. And since several leaders had their own skeleton in the cupboard, nobody said anything. So one African nation next door could be slaughtering its people, and others would not interfere because it would have deemed interference in internal affairs. Well, I'm glad that we have moved away from this philosophy. But we need strong leadership, moral leadership, to be able to sustain the progress which we are making towards creating an Africa which the Africans will be proud of, where our dignity will be respected, and where we will take maximum advantages of our prosperity. Now, unless we are able to converge towards such a situation, we are going to remain divided, spending so much money on defense budget. There's something which Seychelles and Mauritius did which could be of interest. Over many years, there's been a contention concerning Sayamala Bank in the ocean. Seychelles claimed this belongs to us. Mauritius said it belonged to us. Now, recently they agreed, common accord, that it belongs to both and they should share, and everybody gets 50% or whatever. Now when we speak about Africa, we're all Africans from one continent. So we must take into account the fact that we do not adopt certain policy of might is right. That's one of the sad things about the world today. We are living in a world where the powerful nations are moving away from the politics of right is might to a policy of might is right. And against this background, we see nations and poor nations in Africa spending so much money in defense budgets. The other day in Berlin, I questioned a former Secretary General of NATO as to how much money is being spent on defense budget. And it was sad and frightening to learn that perhaps 3 or 4 times more money is being spent on defense as opposed to human resource development. Just imagine the amount of schools, reservoirs, hospitals, which we would have been able to build if we were not wasting. If Africans were allowed to fight their own wars, maybe with stone, bows and arrows or whatever, they would have killed a few hundred people. But today you can kill 10,000 overnight. So I do believe that, I'm getting this prize and I've asked myself, why did you get this prize? On reflection, I believe I got the prize because I decided one time not to get interested in power. Because if I was then getting back to power, I would have to be mindful. What would the CIA think? What M15 thinks? The intelligence of the bigger nation. But not being interested that I can speak my mind honestly, and this, it would appear, has made a certain impact. I think I should go now to the point of getting your questions. Thank you.